what did this one represent to each and every one of you? By the time I had my little guy to school this morning, Joe Shasky was singing "Don't Stop Believin'."
Really?
On the radio.
Okay.
Which is always okay with me.
Right.
Like, absolutely. Sing, dance, and get crazy every day of your life, as far as I'm concerned. But that's what it meant. As an example, for Joe, it meant belief. For me, I guess it's a similar vibe. I never didn't believe, but there's something comforting. That's the best word that I can use. I found last night comforting, maybe in a selfish way, because I thought last night ensured that all of us aren't acting like morons right now. I wasn't sure. We're sitting here having conversations about playoff runs, about a 32-28 basketball team that can't beat a good team by more than maybe Steph has a miracle 3 with 2 seconds left to go kind of a thing. And as the scenario unfolded and you looked at the situation for the teams, that's what I firmly felt all day yesterday. If you're actually serious and you're actually an able-bodied NBA playoff team, you will perform at an incredibly high level tonight. And they did. And I find that comforting, and I think it is a validation sensation with regard to the conversation and the opinions that we all have about the Warriors right now.
Well, the opinions that we all want to have, and we all want to believe that they can be that team that we saw last night. Now, can they do it over the course of a play-in tournament and a series or 2 series or 3 or 4? That's all yet to be determined, and that won't be determined until April. But the fact that they faced a good team with their best player in tow, even though he was somewhat limited, I think. He was not at 100%. You still came out and you beat a team that you should have beaten at home, and you handled it. And now you look at what's ahead, and you've got Chicago tonight. It's a game that you probably should win. You've got a couple of San Antonios, and you start to think maybe we can go on a little bit of a run here and get further up in the play-in tournament and maybe even get a taste of that 6 seed.
Well, now, I mean, my God, like if you're talking about the 7 or the 8, you don't have to dream anymore. They're right there.
Yeah.
I mean, they're right there. They're a half game out of the 8 seed. And Dallas is wobbly. They're 2 games behind the Kings. Watched them last night. By the way, quick aside, good friend, and if you're listening, hey, what's up, Anna? She texted last night and goes, who are we rooting for here? How would you have answered that? Lakers playing the Kings. You've already got your win in the hip pocket. Who do you want? You want them both to lose.
Right, impossible.
Who are you rooting for?
Probably rooting for the Lakers.
I agreed. That's what I said. I said, but I'm watching it right now, and you don't need to worry about it. This thing's cooked.
Yeah.
The Lakers got nothing for this party tonight. And they came out great. They were up by like 15 early, and then the Kings just demolished them. So nice win by the Kings, but they've been inconsistent. They lost their last game at home to the Bulls, which is a cautionary tale for tonight. But I think you're right. It probably would have helped the Warriors a little bit more. But I don't think you got to think very hard in order to believe the Warriors at least grabbing a hold of 7 or 8, which, as I said yesterday, to me, that's a must.
Yeah.
If you actually want to get in to the playoffs, I think it's got to at least be from the 7 or the 8.
Home teams last night, 2-6, by the way, in the association.
Interesting.
And because we had that conversation earlier in the day, earlier in the week. The Warriors won at home, and the Hawks over the Cavaliers at home. Every other home team, and the Wizards were home. They lost, fine. Philly lost at home to Memphis. That's not one that you would have expected because Memphis is not much of a foe, and I know Philly doesn't have Embiid. Houston lost to the Clippers at home. The Jazz lost to the Bulls at home.
And that was a big old choke job. Houston was killing the Clippers.
Yes.
But that's what makes a good
basketball, yeah.
Well, that's what makes a good NBA team, which was another thing that concerned me about the Warriors. Like, there is a conversation at some point when you go, God, the Warriors have blown all these games. Did they? Or is it just that, like, That's what the good teams do. You can't win 3.5 quarters and then go, see, we're the better team.
Right.
The good teams finish. They finish halves, they finish quarters, they finish games, and they're going to make a run at you. And if they're better than you, they're going to beat you. That's why there are 4 quarters. You watch Denver play basketball, there's a reason that they do what they do in the fourth quarter. They're fantastic. So to watch the Warriors kind of do it that other way, which is get out to a big lead, watch a good team make a run at you, and then flick them, and win by 35.
Yep.
I found it very satisfying.
Absolutely.
Very satisfying
and
last night.
Extra satisfying that it was TJD who came in for Draymond in that spot, and he helped to spearhead that effort with an early bucket, as you mentioned, and then the block, dunk sequence that became the signature piece of that win. And, I'd mentioned that I didn't have TJD in my 9-man rotation. Well, turned out it was an 11-man rotation. So it's not really...
Sort of.
Well, Kevon played 6 minutes, but other than that you played
count.
10 guys.
Right.
And,
right.
If you do get down now to 9-man, if you get to a 9-man rotation now, going forward, you've got to have TJD in it, and those minutes might come from Kevon Looney or they might come from somewhere else, but he's a guy now who has played himself into a spot where you absolutely have to have him on the court.
No question. And Šarić was essentially a DNP. I know he got 4 GT minutes.
Sure.
But yeah, I didn't have much of a feeling in terms of, is it a 9-man rotation, a 10-man rotation? I'd like the Warriors to tighten it up.
They played 15 guys, actually.
Well, right. The garbage time. They all got in. The bench got emptied. But my point was never even about, I'd love to see more defined roles. If that takes 10 for you, it takes 10. If it's 9, it's 9. Hell, if it's 11, I kind of think you're crazy, but let me see it. My point was that guy's got to be one of your guys.
Yeah.
He has to be. He's the only one that can do those things. The Warriors haven't had someone who could block Giannis's shot since, checks notes, Giannis came into the league. That was incredible.
Yeah.
That was incredible last night. And I think a big deal to have Trayce Jackson-Davis perform that way, show that skill set, show that swagger, that confidence. TJD looking up into the crowd with the how you like me now look. I mean, again, that's kind of what I was getting at yesterday, which is what the Warriors haven't done much of this year is swagger. They haven't swaggered on somebody.
Yeah.
They beat Phoenix. Yeah, I know, barely. They beat Boston, barely. Dude, swagger on someone.
Well, you got to play well and beat a good team to get that swagger.
And they did.
And when you beat Milwaukee by 35, you can swagger. And when you have as many block shots as you do personal fouls, you can swagger.
Yeah, boy.
And you don't
13 block
13
shots.
apiece.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. And, you wound up with 14 turnovers, but 37 assists. And you shot 49% from 3. It was a complete game on both sides of the ball.
If the Golden State Warriors want to have fun in April and May, it's just like anything else in sports. It's boring. It doesn't really get you going to talk about it. You don't ever say that you'll buy a ticket to see it. But the bottom line is going to be about defense. That's how they did it last night. And that means 2 people who a lot of you have been clamoring for have got to be a part of this rotation. And that is not only Trayce Jackson-Davis, but that is Moses Moody. And I will say this, with regard to the Wiggins-Moody conversation, I'll say this. Last night is not definitive. It was his first game back. It didn't look good, and Kerr deserves credit for seeing that and going away from him and sitting Wiggins out for a lengthy period of time in the second half. All good. But if they do assess, this is a big if and it'll take time to get there, but if they do assess that Moody is going to be the harder worker, if Moody is going to be, forget the offense. We always talk about the skill set. Andrews is better than Moses is top to bottom. But if Moody is going to be the more active, more consistent defender, the way he was last night and has been at other times over the last week and a half, then yeah, the road needs to be open to Moody taking that spot because his plus minus, there's not an accident.
Yeah.
It keeps happening. He's plus 22 last night as a team high.
Wiggins the only one in the minus.
There you go.
-5.
That's defense.
Yeah.
Because Moses didn't really do a whole lot. I mean, he scored 6 points. He didn't do much offensively either.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to look like he looked last night on defense, you can stay, period.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you start him or you get to that point where Andrew's completely out of the rotation, but one game back for Andrew Wiggins, and yeah, he was not quite unplayable, but he clearly was not the Andrew Wiggins you need him to be, and Moses was great, and TJD was great, and Chris Paul, I'm glad you pointed that out earlier in the crossover. He's awesome to watch when he's playing like that.
Look at the big brain on Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see it. Of course you see it.
Of course.
Yeah. Calming presence. No doubt
9
about
assists in 20 minutes. I mean, that's hard to do.
Yeah. How many turnovers did you have last night? 2.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was like 2 weeks worth for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, great night.
Fun.
Just a great, great night.